Hello, welcome to another edition of Dental Bytes. I'm your host. You might know me by now. It's Mark Wagner. We're gonna get to it. I've got two guests on the line here, and getting started here. We're just gonna get into it, get dirty, and yeah. And the longer I do these intros, the more awkward it gets. So lo and behold, I have Kelly back on from Care Crew. Thanks for coming back on. And Megan from Plan Forward.
Hi, Mark. Hi, Megan.
You guys almost did that. You did that in like unison. That was like, hi, Mark, at the same time. It's cool. Like it was rehearsed. And I like you guys are in two like kind of beer can shaped windows, which is, Megan, you're coming on 5 o'clock here. So that makes more sense to you, beer can, and Kelly. We're across Friday the 13th. Yikes. Well, by the time this goes out, it'll be next Friday. So, oops. we're not so live. Megan, let's hear a little bit from you. You sent me a whole list of things to ask. Can you explain the concept of dental membership plans? How do they benefit both patients and dental practices? Let's just get into these questions. And I've got my little guy here in studio today. It really is Friday the 13th.
I'm just praying my daughter doesn't walk through the door because my husband was supposed to be home and he's not, and I have kids home from school. So.
That's this. My mom is the Friday babysitter, and she couldn't do it today. So I've got the little dude.
Real quick, can I just Mark, can we have Megan just maybe introduce herself first before we get to the brilliance?
Yes, of course. Let's get into a little. Give me your bio. What's your bio?
My bio. Okay, so I'm the founder and co-CEO of Plan Forward. Plan Forward is a dental membership software platform, but we also help practices, create and launch membership plans. I'm based in Indianapolis. Started the company in 2018, but I've been in dentistry for about a decade. Went to Indiana University and spent a little time after college traveling around for different jobs, but landed ultimately back in Indianapolis. And here I am. I'm a mom of two kids, 7 and 9. I have a German Shepherd, and that's my jam. I run a software company.
What's the German Shepherd's name? It's important. Zoe. Love it. Does that satisfy you, Kelly? Is that did we? Yeah, I jumped forward a little bit.
No, that's okay, and I think that's okay, and it is kind of Freaky Friday, right, in the dental business. So I'll go super fast because I just did one of these with you, Mark. So maybe there's some recognition there. But I'm Kelly Johnson with Care Crew. So I work in the dental space as well, in a different company that deals with patient engagement, analytics. Automation, just really trying to make sure that we grow practices from where they start with us, take them a little bit farther, stretch them into new things. Obviously, AI is a big thing right now in the dental tech space. A lot of what Megan's going to talk about today is super, super critical to practices growing and functioning, because money and patients coming back in the door are kind of important. So
a little bit.
I think we're going to cover up some really critical backbone pieces of the practice today. So I'm super, super excited to do this series with you, Mark, and Megan. Of course, always a gift to have you here. So let's maybe jump in, huh?
Let's do it.
Right.
Okay, let's do this again here. Okay, so can we explain the concept of dental membership plans and how they benefit both patients and the dental practice?
Happy to. Well, first, I want to make a big distinction that there is a difference between a dental membership plan and what some also put under this umbrella and call a membership plan, but it's really a discount plan or a savings plan. So they're two very different things. They actually fall under different regulations. There are different, regulations state by state that govern these things. And a membership plan, to your question, Mark, it is where practice bundles a set of services for a set price. And for this price, the patient can usually pay, they can choose yearly or monthly, kind of depending on the state and depending on the practice's preference. But once they buy the bundle, all the preventive care services that they've included in the bundle are included for no additional cost. And then for anything outside of the bundle, it's generally discounted. So the bundle is the key to the membership plan. A discount plan on what a lot of practices have, it's still serving uninsured patients, but it's structured very differently. It's where a patient pays some sort of fee. That fee can vary. It can be paid to a third party or sometimes directly to the dental practice. And it essentially allows the patient to access a reduced fee schedule. So they're getting a la carte discounts. And so the key there is the patient is coming in whenever they come in, they have their services completed. They do get a discounted fee, but they're paying each time a la carte for the services that they utilize. And so sometimes these plans, generally the discount plans or the savings plan, the patient has to opt in again each year. It's not like an auto renew thing. For membership plans, best practice is to bundle these, give a yearly or a monthly payment option, and have the plan auto renew so that it's just once the patient's in, they're good, they're eligible, and until their circumstance changes.
Gotcha. What inspired you to get into, like, what inspired you to start this? Like, what like being passionate about this, for discovering new alternatives to insurance? Like, where did the thought bubble when did it come to you? At what moment?
I was working in a dental practice, and I think many great ideas, come from like either severe frustration or anger, right? Like you're trying to solve a problem. And I remember entering insurance payments and also talking through patient balances with patients who had insurance. And it was through this experience working in the dental practice, realizing like, wow, these dental insurance plans as they stand today are so challenging, both for the practice, the patient, the provider-patient relationship. I mean, they really do create so much friction for patients getting care. So from a patient, whether they're in or out of network, what benefits do they even have? Why are things excluded and downcoded? Why do I have a balance? I thought my insurance covered this, and then they're ultimately mad at the practice. Mm-hmm. The dentist is writing things off, or things aren't covered, or the insurance company is dictating, saying, no, that patient doesn't need this treatment because, I don't see it on the x-ray, or we're not going to pay that because X, Y, and Z. I mean, there's just so much friction introduced. And then on top of that, you have half the population here in the US that doesn't even have dental insurance.
Sure. Yeah.
And people are terrified to go to the dentist because of the cost, for good reason. It is expensive. Mm-hmm. And so just trying to come up with a better way, especially when what people are paying in insurance premiums or what they're typically paying out of pocket is pretty much, it's usually cheaper just to pay your dentist directly, especially if they're willing to give you a discount. And so it's such a no-brainer, and it's such a win-win.
Yeah, Kelly, you've been there, right? Like, what are your thoughts there?
I've been there too, and I think, I think, Megan, you catapulted something in the industry that really was needed as well. And I think I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like, we've both been at the desk, and we've both probably sat and been frustrated by, the denial of claims or pre-authorizations where they're going to pay pennies on the dollar, or, different things surrounding the operation of a dental clinic that really hinder it from being successful. And from that, you took a weakness in the industry, and now you're turning it into a strength. And because it's Friday the 13th, even though this is going to maybe hit next week, I just want to ask you, because I deal with a lot of offices too at Care Crew. I dealt with a lot of offices before, when I was in my role at Patterson. And there was this inherent, unfounded fear to get started with a membership plan. Everybody was really scared, and it was like this big, scary thing to take on. Or also, like, you see that same fear when people go fee for service, or they drop insurances, or they enter that whole thought process. And sometimes I found that, the dentist might be on board and the staff is not, or vice versa. Or you have an office manager that might really be pushing for a membership plan, and the rest of the staff is terrified. So can you maybe give some advice to offices listening on maybe how they can get started and kind of remove some of those scary elements from their brain so they can just actually do it and get going?
I think the first thing you have to ask yourself is, what problem is this solving? Are you trying to check the box for your existing patients, your retirees, because they just need an option? Or are you trying to systematically go out of network with insurance companies and you're trying to figure out how to either replace collections? Or are you trying to grow because you want to hire an associate or you want to build out? Like, what are you actually trying to do? And I think knowing why you want to do this and the team buying into it and really being excited about having this option is critical, because all of the logistics of how you manage it and how you actually roll it out, that's secondary, and it is going to be painful if you really aren't convinced that this is going to be a good business decision for the practice. So for us, usually if people are on the fence, it's getting to the pricing, really looking at the numbers and helping the practice see the numbers and the breakdown on, how much is this plan going to cost? How much, of a discount are we going to give, and make sure that it's profitable. Once you do that, then I think you're in the clear. Know exactly why you're offering it and make sure it's priced profitably and you have the right patient buckets, perio, child, senior, adult, what plans do you need to serve your patient base? Knowing those couple things are really critical to being confident that this is a good move for business.
What would you say, like the misconceptions out there in regards to membership plans, like compliance or revenue cycle management?
Oh man, big misconceptions. One is like that you have to be licensed, like to have a DPO license or a discount plan license to do a membership plan. That is the discount plan regulations. So membership plans, they fall under direct primary care regulations. And so this truly is a relationship between the patient and the dentist. There's no third party involved. And so you don't need to have a DPO license or any other form of third party administrator license to do these. Now, there are different regulations across the state. So I'm not saying don't pay attention to the regulations. I'm just saying know what lane you're playing in with this structure of a plan. Another huge misconception is I'm fee for service, and so these plans don't work for me. Mm-hmm. Now, I will be honest, there have been times that I've said, you know what, I really don't think a membership plan is right for your practice, but it's been so few, I can count them on one hand, and I can probably remember where the practices were and why I said that. But the biggest misconception is that uninsured patients actually come into your practice every 6 months or every 3 months if they're perio, and they pay full fees for all the services that you recommend as your standard of care. Because I promise you, even if you're fee for service, your compliance is not that strong, or you're giving ad hoc discounts that make the whole discounting because we're fee for service a moot point.
100%. I see that all the time when we run analytics for practices. I see that all the time, Megan.
Yeah. Like they're writing off x-rays, like, oh, they're uninsured, so we're just not going to, bill you for these x-rays. Or, they only come in once every 18 months. Well, yes, they might be paying full fees, but they're only coming in once every 18 months. Or they're not accepting treatment at a very high rate. And it's just, when you bundle the services, patient buys in, they come in every 6 months, you are going to increase your revenue and your collections, even if you're fee for service, because you're collecting for your full standard of care for 2, 3, 4 visits per year. The one time go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. I just just to stick on this topic, what percentage of loss would you say those write-offs would be in a practice typically on average?
For if you're fee for service and writing stuff off?
Yeah.
Gosh, you look at the analytics more than I do, probably.
Yeah, Kelly, what would you think?
What are people writing off?
Yeah, it varies because it is so ad hoc, like you alluded to, Megan. It's just, And that's the point. So often when we're running analytics for a practice and we're taking a look at their KPIs and we're taking a look at their trending data points, that is one mysterious area that we do often detect like super frequently because people aren't knowing where to look for it and they're not looking at it consistently enough to where it's actually making a difference, one way or the other in the practice. And so, you might have, especially in the case where there's multi-dentist, right? Or multidisciplinary practices, fall victim to this as well, where, you might have one person that says, well, let's just take $800 off that crown because Kelly comes in all the time. Then the next person in the next chair, gets $20 off or, but that's not a really good way to run your operation because what if those patients know each other and I got $800 off and maybe you got 20 off, all of a sudden you have kind of a dance around things you just don't want to dance around, when you deal with the operation of the practice. Plus, you can't forecast your revenue. You can't predict any profit and loss on it because it's just fly by night, fly by the seat of your pants. So, to your question, Mark, it probably varies, honestly.
Right.
And that puts your team in a tough position. I mean, being the person that was the financial coordinator, to have a standard operating procedure, like this is our plan and this is our standard of care if you don't have insurance. There was no gray, the person at the front gets to decide your discount or if you're writing off x-rays or the doctor has to go in the back and then, the assistant comes in and like, okay, well, what are we going to write off before we check, Miss Jones out? She's almost to the front. Are we billing her full this time? Like that all goes away.
It's a car dealership.
Selling iPhones on the corner. It's an iPad shop.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing to keep in mind, when you look at the general population and the percentage of people that don't have dental insurance or are underinsured, have terrible dental insurance, and then the percent of the patients within a practice that don't have dental insurance, it's skewed to insurance. Like most practices are at least 50 to 80% insured patients. So there's a lot of people walking around outside your doors that are not stepping through your doors because they don't have insurance and they're afraid to pay. So it's like, get something in place to give people confidence that, I can walk through your doors and I know what to expect.
This is the part of the business that's it's pretty messy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then you start to talk about RCM and how you track and pay and what does that do to my gross or adjusted productions? And, we pay our owner dentists, our associates on collections, that's where the minutia, I think that's where people get paralyzed.
Sure. Yeah. And that's for folks that don't know what that is revenue cycle management.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is a really critical piece. And thankfully in the world, Plan Forward, I've seen it have what I'll classify as a very gorgeous and appropriate software to go with instituting something like this in the practice, because when you don't have a quote unquote dashboard or reports or a menu or a user interface that people can actually quickly engage with and then get back into the DPMS, the solution sometimes is a lot harder to implement, and to get that buy-in from the staff that we just mentioned is so needed. So, I mean, I find I'm a software trainer, software geek by nature. I've been in a lot of dental software. I've taught on a lot of dental software. And I know when Megan showed me the Plan Forward software, I was like, wow, I'd be excited to use this. Like I'd be excited to get up and log into this and actually see how things are going and run my business. So hats off to you guys, Megan. It's gorgeous.
And Kelly, it's not a geek, it's a nerd. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a dental nerd. I'm a technology nerd.
Yes.
Nerd.
Yeah.
I'm a tech nerd with you, but I think that's where we've put a lot of investment. Truly, is not before we even got to the code was the UX UI design. Like, what does this actually look and feel like when someone logs in, and how do you navigate? So that is where we put a lot of emphasis. And the thing I was gonna to say, another kind of misnomer is, well, I only have maybe 50 patients or 75 patients on the plan. And so we don't really need a software to track it. We're doing fine. And that might be true. And what's hard to measure is maybe your missed revenue opportunities, because you're not necessarily writing it off, but if you're not renewing when the plan should renew, or you're giving away prophy or perio services for the price of, a pro fee, you're not really maximizing revenue and doing what we say, this should be like such a good business decision, not only helping patients, but it really should help the business. It should generate a profitable hygiene revenue stream. You should be able to track your gross and adjusted productions, your collections, your treatment acceptance from these patients, and really have a good understanding of how this is, moving the levers within your practice. And if you have something internally that you're managing, it checks the box for the patient, but it generally, you can't answer those things for the business. And that's where there's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, you can't manage what you don't measure, right?
Truly.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on. Let's move on to this. So how could we effectively integrate dental membership plans without negative impact on the patient ledger? I know that's one of your goals.
Yeah. So think of the membership payments similar to insurance premiums. And I mean, that's really not something we really can say to patients, but this is to help business owners think about how this revenue flows. So when these membership payments come in, that's like money to the house. Because if they never come in for one service, they don't get refunded. So this is like money to the house and kind of a separate account kind of sitting there waiting. When the services are completed and these membership patients actually get their cleanings, exams, x-rays, whatever, and those services get posted, that's when you want to actually attribute gross production, adjusted production, and some level of collection from that membership plan to the service that was completed. So that's when you really want to recognize the collections and potentially comp the providers who performed those services on collections. So it's almost like a cash versus accrual accounting method, where, you are still recognizing all the collections when they come in, from an accounting standpoint. But from a compensation standpoint, you want to just track, just like you do with your insurance. When these services are done, since you've been paid for them, that's when you want to comp your providers. How do you simply integrate? Well, you need an integrated platform to track all of that.
I might know somebody.
Yeah, I'm heard too. Have you heard of Plan Forward, Mark?
Yeah.
Right.
I think I have. Yeah.
I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
Anyways. So you just, it's as simple as setting up kind of a dummy insurance company and a dummy fee schedule, so that it looks and smells like, your standard 100% preventive care coverage. So when your patient goes to check out, the services that are in plan services get walked out at zero, but our service or our system is actually tracking the full gross adjusted and, adjusted production and the collections, so that the administrative team can look back and pull those reports just for the in-plan services. Anything out of plan that is simply discounted, that's either however you want to do it, whether you post your standard fees and you do manual write-offs manual adjustments, or you use a fee schedule and post the adjusted fees so you're not relying on your staff. Especially with staffing shortages, I would recommend getting away from manual adjustments.
Yeah.
Even if that's not how you do the rest of your accounting, and I guess it kind of depends on the size and the complexity of your organization, but just having the fee schedule, I mean, you can still measure against your standard fees, but having the fee schedule in there of what you actually want to bill the patient for at the time of checkout, so you don't have to do any manual adjustments, is just going to straighten everything.
Yeah.
And just offices that listen to this, don't forget about your managed standard care reports, because those, coupled with a membership plan, life-saving.
Yeah. And the more frictionless we can make it for the patient, the better the experience too, right?
Yep.
So what are the key advantages now, especially for those that consider themselves, that fee-for-service office?
Mm-hmm. The key advantage is retention and increasing production among your uninsured patient base. It keeps your patients loyal to you because this is not available anywhere else. And once these patients opt in to a full comprehensive preventive care plan that you offer, they are coming in regularly. They're accepting their x-rays because they're already included and bundled. So you're presenting more treatment and they're accepting more. it's the data proves it. It's 50 to 70% more treatment acceptance among this uninsured patient base when they're on the membership plan. So you're just increasing the value of these patients.
Mm-hmm. What like
care crew in? Sorry to butt in, Mark, but
butt in,
on the care crew in, butt in. We also then see some of the recare lists shrink, right? Because people aren't sitting out there hiding from the dentist. They've found a convenient way to come in. So it's kind of funny how sometimes the two will tangle together. And sometimes when, care crew is working with an office, we can tell if they have a membership plan or not. We can tell if people have an affordable way to come in and stay current on their recare, get that SRP done, or talk about some implants or have consults. Sometimes we can just flat out tell that they're working with a membership plan for that reason.
Do you see like those percentages? Like, are their hygiene numbers up because they're using that system?
Of course, absolutely. So there's a few behavioral things that almost inherently come with a membership plan office from what I see in my world at Care Crew. Mm-hmm. So number one, the rebooking is going to go up. And we always want that to be like, 86 to 93%, meaning patients get their teeth cleaned and they don't leave without a next visit. So we typically will see that in the very green on track area. We also then will see a high compliance rate for people who don't fail or miss their appointment because money's not a factor for them to go stay in the car or suddenly have a sick dog when they don't even have pets, those kinds of things. So we often will see metrics stabilize and then improve. And when you measure the money from case acceptance and the things that Megan touched on, it's just really, really fun to see the office have that extra revenue in their hands, and then they can do what they want with it. But these services certainly pay for themselves by my estimation.
Mm-hmm. That for me is the no-brainer light bulb going off situation. Like, doesn't it become a no-brainer then?
It does, but Megan can attest that.
Yeah. And I know obviously we're super biased here, but for me, that's the name of the game. Cause like we're driving all these patients to the practice.
Yeah.
Like, yes, growing a practice is about new patient acquisition, but really growing that practice is all about having the patients sticky to that practice.
Mm-hmm. And saying yes to the things that you're doing.
Sure. Yeah. Over time. But that to me is, what can we do to make those patients more sticky, So.
Mm-hmm. Kelly, you mentioned something that I didn't even think about touching on, but convenience. Patients want convenience. That is so important now with all the different technologies that are out there, whether it's you call, they miss a call, it texts you back. They want 800 ways to pay. They want different payment method options. They want to be able to schedule online. They want convenience. And so membership plans also, at least with Plan Forward, they can enroll online. The practice has full control over what plan they get put on, et cetera. They can have monthly or yearly payment options. They get auto renewal reminders. They can change, click to update their credit card or be notified if their card's expiring, things like that. They can use their HSA card, which is huge. They can use pre-tax dollars for these because it's not an insurance premium. So from the consumer perspective, it's like, I know my bundle is, $400. I don't have to worry when I go in. Once I opt into the plan, then I don't pay at time of service anymore. It's just, I'm a member. So it's pure convenience.
You beat me to my next question. It was, so what is Plan Forward? What's the unique features to help dental practices manage and analyze dental, like the plans? What else? Expand on that thought. Yeah. What other amazing things are you guys doing?
I mean, if you wanted to get in the nitty gritty of let's
do it like shamelessly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first and foremost, our clients own the merchant account that's processing all these payments. So there is no third party. The money from your patients goes directly to you. You get next day funding. It goes straight to your bank account. We, from a consultative kind of onboarding approach, we help them create these plans all focused on profitability. Our number one goal is to make this a profitable, good business move, not price it so low so you'll get, thousands of members joining and then you run it for 18 months and think, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? This is a loss. So it needs to be all focused on profitability. But from a software standpoint, things like when your child rolls over to an adult, that should be an automatic process. You define the age, and then our software takes care of notifying the parent, telling him there's a price change. Johnny turned 13. Now he's going to be on our, he qualifies for our adult plan. Or if a lot of people are offering senior plans. So, hey, congrats, Mr. Jones, you're 65 and now you're on our senior plan. So that automation is really important. When patients enroll online, it's the staff who actually gets to finalize that enrollment, put them on the plan, and that's actually when the plan starts. So when they're seen, it's not when they're online, selecting the plan, they buy it today and maybe they can't get in for 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever, or they get sick and then have to postpone. So then they've kind of wasted, 6 weeks of their 12-month term. So it's things like that within the software specifically that make it just super simple for the team. Once they enroll the patient, it kind of does everything else.
Cool. Now, as a leader, in this part of the industry, what do you see? What do you foresee the future? What does the future hold in terms of patient payment models?
Oh man, I think it's going to lean more toward direct primary care. I mean, we've just seen more and more practices wanting to go out of network. I mean, it's really hard for them to be profitable when practices are in network with so many insurance companies because these reimbursement rates are so crazy and premiums are continuing to rise. I mean, I think they estimated that premiums in general are going to go up 6.4% or something. And so that just means like more out of pocket, even with these insurance plans. So the more across healthcare, the more there can be a direct relationship between a patient and their provider and kind of cut out any middleman. I think that's definitely the direction things are going. AI, that is just making everything so much more interesting, and from diagnosing things to reporting to forecasting trends. I mean, AI is really making a massive play in the dental space. I mean, in every industry.
I was just going to say, like, it's changing my world. Like, it's amazing. It's such a great tool. And I know we're all afraid of it replacing folks, but I think it enhances. It's like having your own personal assistant. It's amazing. Yeah.
Well, it is. And there's, one of the things that we always say at Care Crew, or at least I can speak for myself, that I really drive home with practices is, a couple things. So if you're worried about being replaced, increase your skill set and confidence. And I think that also ties directly into, the membership plan aspect too, Megan, because, I was on the phone yesterday with a practice and they're looking at dropping out of some insurance. Connection Dental was actually. So they're looking at jumping out of Connection Dental, but they have 16 umbrella plans underneath that they feel just obligated that they have to take the write-off for. And they thought they opted out and they're still, per EOB getting instructed to take the write-off, right? So this gal I was talking to was just frustrated. And I said, well, let's look at your coverage production report. Let's do a kind of a comp exam on, where you're taking the bullets. And then maybe you can consider jumping out of those. No, I can't. That's where we get all of our patients. She just panicked at the thought of, not taking every insurance company ever known to man. And so what I encouraged her to do is I said, do two things for me. Go run a couple of reports, chew on them, over the next week. I want you to think about the skill set and staff of yourself and your team and your ability to exude that to your patients, should they want to come there for you and not because you take Delta Dental or you take United Concordia. How about shifting your mindset on selling your practice and selling what you do and the quality of it? And then insurance will become a secondary item. And then that's when you can introduce membership plans. Put in your fee schedules, get your coverage books updated, all those kinds of things. And she sat there for a minute and she said, Kelly, I've been here 19 years and nobody's ever asked me to consider that. I've just been so pumped on these insurance companies and the fact that I feel forced to accept them. I've never thought about a life where maybe they come because our services are good, or I have a good dentist, or he does a good filling. So there's really a whole lot of different aspects to this that we could probably spend all day here talking about between you, Megan, and myself. But I really think, to tie to your question, Mark, I think, where's the industry going? Yeah, definitely technology, but I think also people just waking up and realizing, what do you really have in hand to run your practice? And is it enough?
Just prior to being on this conversation with you two, I had interviewed an endodontist in the LA area. And this was, if we're talking about change and being open and willing to adapt to new things, this daughter was taking over from her father. Father been practicing for 40 years. So you could just imagine, if we can use this as an analogy of just being open to new things. This daughter now, teaching her dad these new pieces of technology that maybe he missed out on, That's awesome. I got a question for you, Megan. So in regards to, we're getting into my arena now, and selfishly, I'm very interested in your answer to this. So dental practice moves forward with this membership plan. Mm-hmm. How are we marketing this now? Like what things are we doing to put that out there, and what benefits would you say in terms of marketing and marketing draw? Would you say?
As you probably know very well, marketing is not something that comes naturally to many dental practice owners or their team members. Frankly, it's just sort of this thing that I feel like kind of know they have to do. They have to check the box, but don't really know how to optimize it or maximize it. So when it comes to marketing a membership plan, there is so much low-hanging fruit right there within their practice. And, everybody wants new patients. Like, we understand that. But first, let's make sure your existing patients who either haven't been in for a while or still don't have insurance and maybe aren't coming in regularly know about your plan and are aware that this could make coming into the office frictionless. So in most practices are leveraging lots of technology for online scheduling, appointment reminders, text reminders, new patient kind of automated email workflows, the hold music in their practice. They're using tablets in the practice. They may be doing like new mover postcards. Like, there are so many things that they're probably already doing that our first step is, let's make sure that your membership plan is very present in all of these ways that you're communicating to people, whether they're coming into your practice, whether they're on your website, or whether they're calling and like waiting on hold and there's a hold, recording playing. So first we look at what they're already doing, what the systems they have in place, and how we can layer in the membership conversation. When it comes to new patient acquisition, the biggest way that these plans today are still growing are through word of mouth. If your dental practice wants to take it a step further, I think the whole SEO digital world changes so frequently that if you're going to invest in any type of proactive online kind of search engine optimization, leave that to the professionals. Get an SEO person to help you with that. But there are millions of people searching for discount dental or cheap crown or don't have insurance, like dental plan near me. Mm-hmm. And, there are so many free tools even to see, okay, what are these search terms that people are looking on in a 5-mile radius? And if you want to leverage some of this online traffic and get your website or your membership landing page to come up in the search rankings, then hire somebody and put together a little campaign and put some money behind it. So those are kind of the initial easy ones to, get the word out. And then obviously social media, like, don't post once a week at least. Yeah. And
if you're gonna use social media, at least once a week.
Yeah. I'm once a week about the plan. Like, hey, Brittany, who likes to have dirty teeth on a rainy day, remember we have a plan. Like, it doesn't even have to make sense. But there's holidays and there's silly days, National Pizza Day, National Donut Day, like all the days within a month. Turn all of those kitschy things into social media posts.
I follow both of those days, just those days, the pizza day and the donut day.
Right.
Yeah. I've got a problem.
Question for you, Megan, on the marketing. This is a little old school, but
yeah.
Do you have any of your practices like put something in the hygienist put something in the patient's bag with the toothbrush when they go home? Or do you have any leave behind sheets where people like the dental assistant could staple it to the treatment plan?
Yeah,
totally. Oh my gosh, I completely overlooked the fact that you should have brochures,
yes,
and price sheets in your practice for sure. Yeah. And absolutely give those to them. And again, remember QR codes. Everybody knows how to use them.
Yeah, our gifts from COVID, right? Yeah.
So you don't have to have all the information. You just have to have enough to pique someone's interest, show them where to go for more information. Yeah, very cool. I love your opinion, Mark. I mean, you're the marketer here.
Oh, I'm picking your brain. I'm interviewing you. You're in the hot seat here, not me. Awesome, Kelly. Any thoughts there? Yeah, that was a good having actual physical brochures in the office. And just equipping the staff to talk about it too. Yeah, I find that there's often a disconnection from what's happening in the marketing space for a clinic. And what the staff is aware of, so there might be a campaign running that the team has no idea about. So just have important.
Fun. I like Megan's idea. Have fun with it and definitely engage. And
donut day.
Offices are a little bit challenged just to market anything in general.
Yeah.
But this one thing, if you're going to invest in it. You're going to get your team behind it. The marketing is a huge piece of that.
And just, piggybacking off the thought that making that a frictionless, if they're looking for insurance or whatever, there's another solution, right? It's awesome.
Yeah. And the one thing about having your materials in the office, if someone is there and essentially ready to buy, they want to know how much it costs, what's included, and what they're saving. So whatever your materials look like, so many people have their fabulous brochure, but they don't put the price on it. I'm like, why are you afraid of the price? Put the price on it.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna buy if they don't know how much it costs.
And you know what I've found too, that's music to my ears that you're saying that. Why go through the journey of explaining what you're going to be doing, service, product, or whatever, just to get to the end and people get sticker shock or whatever that might be? Why just be upfront with price? And if that's what they're going to ask anyways. Yeah. So the more you kind of hide that in behind, you make it all a secret, people get sketched out like they're getting sold or something.
Exactly. Yeah. Just tell them what the price is. This is what it includes. These are the benefits, and be confident about it.
Yeah. All right. This has been awesome. We're getting tied up against the clock here. So I want some just some closing thoughts. Kelly, I'm gonna give it to you first, and then Megan will let you close it up.
Yeah, for sure. Just super excited that we had the opportunity to talk about this. I think RCM stuff and dealing with change in the practice, and specifically when it ties to Megan's world and to your world, frankly, Mark, with marketing and putting a membership plan in the practice. I think those are all really important elements to survival. And when I think about software like CareCrew partnering in with stuff like that as well, I think it all does introduce an element of change, but I think we've addressed here why and how to really pull that off. So just grateful to build some awareness around these plans. I appreciate your time, Megan, and in letting us hear how to kind of get around some really good tips and tricks and kind of take the scariness for the month of Halloween, take the scariness out of, membership plans in general. So over to you, Megan.
I like what you did there, Kelly.
No, I completely agree with all of that. I appreciate the opportunity just to be here and to chat with you both. I guess my final thoughts would be, sometimes it's hard to zoom out and look at the big picture. Membership plans are very tactical when it comes down to tracking and renewals and things, but you have to stay at a 30,000 foot view for a little bit and figure out what's our bigger goal? and how can we leverage the different tools and technologies in our practice to make this as smooth as possible. And if you don't have something available, I'm sure it's out there, get it. And automation and using the technologies out there for using your data and leveraging your data and streamlining things. It's so important, especially with staffing shortages and everybody's overworked. So, know that there's a bigger goal and why you're implementing this membership plan, what you want to do with it, how you can leverage your analytics to show where your levers may be moving, and start small. It doesn't have to be a whole kind of overhaul of your system. And there are people out there ready to support you if you choose to do this for your practice.
I love it. And everybody look at my little bubble now in the corner. Just be open to change. There's so many good things out there. Our problem these days is choosing which good thing. I argue and stress that make sure the thing that you do choose is that you have amazing support like you, Kelly, and you, Megan. You need somebody in your corner for, to back that service up. So thank you so much, ladies. This has been great. I think this is the beginning of a more in-depth conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks, Kelly.